The Battle of Castillon, fought on July 17, 1453, is considered the final decisive battle of the Hundred Years' War. It marked the end of English hopes of maintaining a significant presence in France and sealed the fate of the conflict that had raged on for more than a century. The battle resulted in a crushing defeat for the English and paved the way for the French reconquest of Gascony, ultimately leading to the end of the war. Background: the English position in 1453. By the early 1450s, the English were in a weakened position. Having lost much of their territory in northern France, including Normandy and Aquitaine, the English were now focused on maintaining their control over Gascony, the last significant English possession in southwestern France. The French, under King Charles VII, had gained the upper hand, aided by the earlier victories of Joan of Arc and the continued resurgence of French forces. In 1450, the French began a systematic campaign to retake Gascony. By 1453, the only remaining English stronghold was Bordeaux, the capital of the region. John Talbot, the English commander, was tasked with defending the city and the surrounding territories. However, the French forces, led by Jean Bureau, were poised to deliver the final blow. The battle, the French victory. 1. The English defense. At the time of the battle, John Talbot, the Earl of Shrewsbury, commanded the English forces. Talbot had a reputation as one of the most skilled military leaders of his time, and his troops, though outnumbered, were battle-hardened. The English positioned themselves at a stronghold near the town of Castillon in southwestern France, hoping to stop the advancing French forces. 2. The French assault. The French, led by Jean Bureau and Charles VII's trusted commanders, employed a combination of artillery and cavalry. The French forces had a significant advantage, particularly in their use of cannon, which were becoming increasingly effective on the battlefield. The French artillery pounded the English position, weakening their defenses. 3. The turning point. In a devastating turn of events, Talbot, who had been eager to fight and relieve his beleaguered garrison in Bordeaux, left his defensive position to engage the French. His forces, caught in an open field, were overwhelmed by the superior French artillery and cavalry. The French used a well-coordinated attack to encircle the English, and despite their best efforts, the English were routed. 4. Talbot's death. The battle ended with the death of John Talbot. This loss was a blow to English morale, as Talbot had been one of the most capable commanders in the war. Many English soldiers were killed or captured in the rout, and the French secured a resounding victory. Consequences: the end of the Hundred Years' War. 1. The fall of Bordeaux. After the victory at Castillon, the French swiftly moved to retake Bordeaux and the rest of Gascony. The loss of Castillon led to the surrender of Bordeaux in October 1453, marking the end of English rule in Gascony and the final loss of English possessions in France, except for the port of Calais. 2. The end of English ambitions. With the loss of Gascony and the defeat of their forces at Castillon, the English had no significant territories left in France. The English monarchy, weakened by military defeat and internal unrest, effectively ended its ambitions to rule France. The Hundred Years' War, which had begun in 1337, came to an official close with the Treaty of Picquigny in 1475. 3. Charles VII's victory. The French victory at Castillon solidified the reign of Charles VII, who had emerged from the war as the undisputed monarch of France. The reconquest of Gascony and the final defeat of the English were instrumental in restoring French territorial integrity and cementing Charles VII's position as a strong and legitimate ruler. 4. Impact on England. The loss of France was a devastating blow to England, both politically and economically. The war had drained the English treasury and led to a loss of resources. Internally, it contributed to the War of the Roses, as the weakened English monarchy faced challenges to its rule, eventually leading to civil strife between the Lancastrians and Yorkists. Conclusion. The Battle of Castillon was the final and most decisive confrontation of the Hundred Years' War, marking the end of English rule in France. The French victory ensured the complete reconquest of Gascony and sealed the fate of English ambitions in France. With the death of John Talbot and the loss of their final stronghold, the English were forced to concede defeat, bringing an end to a conflict that had lasted for over a century. The victory heralded the rise of Charles VII and the consolidation of French power, setting the stage for a new era in both France and England.